Our final speaker is Jon Ronson, Welsh journalist, author, documentary filmmaker, author of The Men Who Stare at Goats, The Psychopath Test. His most recent book is So You've Been Publicly Shamed, a look at shame culture in the internet age. Jon Ronson.
Hey. Thanks, Anne.
Pleasure.
Hi. Hello. A couple of years ago, I went on a psychopath spotting course where I learned how to spot psychopaths. I'm now a certified in that I have a certificate of attendance and also a very adept psychopath spotter. By the way, the statistic is that 1 in 100 regular people is a psychopath. So that means there's 20 psychopaths in the room. I think could be carnage by the end of the night. Anyway, I was trying to work out what to do with my new psychopath spotting skills, and I thought I wouldn't put them to philanthropic good. What I'd do is think about all the people in my past who had crossed me to see which of them I could out as psychopaths. So top of the bill was the Sunday Times columnist A.A. Gill, who had just written a column about how he had shot a baboon on safari because, like all of us, he wondered what it'd be like to shoot a person, which is classic psychopath. Plus, he always gives my television documentaries very bad reviews, which is classic psychopath. I actually bumped into A.A. Gill quite recently at a do, and he came bounding over to me and said, I hear I'm in your book about psychopaths. Don't worry, I would never sue another journalist. So I said, you know how you wrote that column about how you'd shot a baboon because, like all of us, you wondered what it would be like to shoot a person. I said, it's not all of us. It's not a normal thing to think. It's just you. He said, oh, you don't hunt, so you wouldn't understand. So I said, I sell more books than you do. So I won. Anyway, the man who taught me psychopath spotting skills, Robert Hare, said, no, what you need to do with your powers, I'm massively paraphrasing, is try and get yourself some corporate psychopaths to interview, because that is the solution to the great mysteries. Why the wars, why the injustice, corporate psychopathy. That you have 1 in 100 regular people are psychopaths, but 4%, according to Hare, of CEOs were psychopaths. So get yourself some corporate psychopaths to interview. So I thought, okay, I'll try. So I wrote to Bernie Madoff and I said, can I come and interview you in prison to find out if you're a psychopath? And he didn't write back. So I changed tack and I wrote to a famous CEO with many Australian connections called Chainsaw Al Dunlap, who used to work with Kerry Packer. Famous for, he would go into a failing business and shut down 30% of the factories, and he'd always fire people with a joke. So one time somebody said to him, I've just bought myself a new car. And he said, you may have a new car, but I'll tell you what, you don't have a job. So I wrote to him and I said, I believe you may have a very special brain anomaly that makes you fearless and interested in the predatory spirit. Can I come and interview you about your special brain anomaly? And he said, come on over. So I went over, remembering that one of the items on the psychopath checklist is cunning manipulative. So I turned up at Al Dunlap's grand Florida mansion, which was filled with sculptures of predatory animals. And that gave me a tour of the garden. He said, over there you've got lions and panthers. He was saying this in a less effeminate way. Tigers. I said, it's as if Midas and the Queen of Narnia flew over a particularly fierce zoo and turned everything into stone and deposited everything here. And he said, what? And I said, nothing. And I said it was just a jumble of words that became confused in my mouth, and he said, okay. So then we went into his kitchen, and it was Al and his wife Judy and his bodyguard Sean, and I said, you know how I said that you may have a special brain anomaly? And he said, it's an amazing theory. It's like Star Trek. You're going where no man has gone before. And I said, well, some psychologists would say that this makes you said, "A what?" And I said, "A psychopath." And in fact, I have a checklist of psychopathic character traits in my pocket. Can I go through the checklist with you? And I think what saved me is that Al Dunlap, like all of us, loves nothing more than a mental health checklist. So he said, okay. So I said, item 1, grandiose sense of self-worth, which would have been a hard one for him to deny because we were standing underneath a giant oil painting of himself. He said, well, you've got to believe in you. And so we went down the list and he basically redefined all the items as business positives. But I did notice something happening to me the day that I was at Al Dunlap's house, which was every time he said something that wasn't psychopathic, I thought, well, that's okay. I won't put that in the book. So he said no to many short-term marital relationships. He's only been married twice. Admittedly, his first marriage ended when he threatened his first wife with a knife and said he always wondered what human flesh tasted like. But his second marriage has lasted 41 years. So he said no to that, no to juvenile delinquency. And I thought, well, that's okay. I won't put that in the book. And then I realized, of course, that becoming a psychopath spotter had turned me a little bit psychopathic in my desire to shove Al Dunlap into this box marked psychopath, to label him by his outermost aspects. So when I got back to London, I had dinner with a friend of mine, documentary maker Adam Curtis, and he said, it's what we all do, isn't it, as journalists? He said, we travel around the world with our notepads in our hands and we wait for the gems, and the gems are always the outermost aspects of that person's personality, and like medieval tapestry makers, we stitch together the gems and we leave all the ordinary stuff on the floor. And he said, we all know that what we do is odd, but none of us like talking about it. And I think that's exactly right. That is what journalism is. And I think actually on social media, we all had the chance to do everything better, but we all just immediately rush to labeling people and diagnosing people and calling people psychopaths because we want to destroy people and not feel bad about it. So I want to tell you a story about a man who does the opposite of everything that I just told you. A man who steadfastly remains open-minded and compassionate about even the most apparently irredeemable people. His name is James Gilligan. Gilligan was a psychiatrist at the Harvard Medical School. He was completely uninterested in the strange epidemic that was occurring within Massachusetts prisons of suicides and homicides and riots and hostage-taking. Prisoners were getting killed, officers were getting killed, visitors were getting killed. A US District Court judge ordered the Department of Corrections to make sense of the chaos by bringing in a team of psychiatrists. Gilligan was invited to lead the group. He agreed, but he wasn't enthusiastic. He assumed the perpetrators of the prison violence would be psychopaths. He pictured them like they were another species. And that's exactly how they seemed to him when he first went inside. But eventually the men loosened up a little. And what they told Gilligan came as a great surprise to him. And this is what Gilligan told me. He said, the men would all say that they had died. They would all say that they themselves had died before they started killing other people. Gilligan filled notepads with observations from his interviews with the men. He wrote, some have told me that they feel like robots or zombies, that their bodies are empty or filled with straw, not flesh and blood, that instead of having veins and nerves, they have ropes or cords. One inmate told me he feels like food that is decomposing. These men's souls did not just die, they have dead souls because their souls were murdered. How did it happen? How were they murdered? And one day it hit him. Universal among the violent criminals was the fact that they were keeping a secret, Gilligan said, a central secret. And that secret was that they felt ashamed. I have yet to see a serious act of violence that was not provoked by the experience of feeling shamed or humiliated, disrespected and ridiculed. As children, these men were shot, axed, scolded, beaten, strangled, tortured, drugged, starved, suffocated, set on fire, thrown out of the window, raped or prostituted by their mothers who were their pimps. For others, words alone, shamed and rejected, insulted and humiliated, dishonored and disgraced, tore down their self-esteem. For each of them, the shaming occurred on a scale so extreme, so bizarre, and so frequent that one cannot fail to see that the men who occupy the extreme end of the continuum of violent behaviour in adulthood occupied an equally extreme end of the continuum of violent child abuse earlier in life. So they grew up and, as Gilligan said, all violence being a person's attempt to replace shame with self-esteem, they murdered people. One inmate told him, "You wouldn't believe how much respect you get when you have a gun pointed at some guy's face." In 1991, Gilligan began co-opting Harvard lecturers to donate their time for free to teach classes inside his prisons. What could be more de-shaming than an education program? And prison violence dropped astoundingly. His plan coincided with the election of a new state governor, William Weld. Weld was asked about Gilligan's initiative in one of his first press conferences. He said, "We have to stop this idea of giving free college education to inmates. Otherwise, people who are too poor to go to college are going to start committing crimes so they can get sent to prison for a free education." And so that was the end of the education program. I think back on the early days of Twitter, when people would admit shameful secrets about themselves and other people would say, "Oh my God, I'm exactly the same." These days, the hunt is on for people's shameful secrets. You can lead a good ethical life, but some bad phraseology and a tweet can overwhelm it all, become a clue to your secret inner evil. Maybe there's two types of people in the world: those people who favour humans over ideology, and those people who favour ideology over humans. I favour humans over ideology, but right now, the ideologues are winning, and on social media, they're creating a stage for constant, artificial high dramas, where everybody's either a magnificent hero or a sickening villain, even though we know that's not true about our fellow humans. What's true is that we're clever and stupid. What's true is that we're grey areas. The great thing about social media was how it gave a voice to voiceless people. But now we're creating a surveillance society where the smartest way to survive is to go back to being voiceless. Let's not do that. Thank you.